Experiential Retail Redefined, the consumer of tomorrow, the shopping behaviors of tomorrow. So what are the retail spaces of tomorrow? I would like to invite Mr. Anupam Tripasuri, Head Retail Lodha Group, to join us. Yeah, I think that would be much appreciated. A round of applause for our speakers. Thank you so much. Mr. Abneet Soni, President, Omax. Mr. Munish Baldev, Retail Head of Unitech. Mr. David Ellis, Director, London Studio Head, Benoy, UK. Pushpa Bector, Senior Vice President, DLF Mall of India. Mr. Sanjay Dutt, MD, Cushman and Wakefield. Mr. Rafiq Malik, Chairman and MD, Metro Shoes. And I would like to invite our moderator, Mr. Ankit Samdaria, VPS Asset Management and Acquisition, Xander Advisors.
Good afternoon, everyone. So we have a very interesting topic at hand, the retail spaces of tomorrow. And I'm very pleased to have an eminent panel here to throw some lights on how the retail spaces of tomorrow would look like. I've been coming to the IRF for the last 3 years, and this experiential retail has been a recurring theme over the last many years. And that begs a question as to what has really changed. Has the time come for us to think radically different about the retail spaces of tomorrow? So I'd like to open the floor for all of our panelists to share their insights on how the consumers' expectations has changed or evolved over the last couple of years. So may I start with Mr. Rafiq, and we'll go around the table.
Metro has been in the retail business for over 50 years, and we are still, we consider ourselves still relevant to the consumer today. So what have we tried to do throughout our entire history? We have tried to mold and change ourselves along with the customer. And the customer is changing and it's evolving. And we as a brand need to change and evolve along with the customer. The difference is in the last 5 or 10 years, the changes are happening very rapidly. Not only is the consumer changing, but the technology with which the consumer, to serve the customer better is changing. So as retailers, or whether we are in shopping centers or whatever we were doing, or even as a brand, we need to evolve very quickly. The demography of the customer is changing, the aspirations are changing, his knowledge is changing, his expectations are changing, and changing very rapidly. So whether you're a brand, or whether you're a retailer or a shopping center, the need of the hour is to evolve very quickly with only one purpose in mind: to be able to serve the customer better, more efficient, and leave him satisfied and having met his needs. Thank you.
Just to make the conversation a little more interesting, I'm going to go in a completely different path. And we spend a lot of time with the owners of shopping centers, investors of shopping centers, and people who really look at this business as a business to profit from this business. And the story is strikingly very different. They recognize the change in the market, they recognize the use of technology and the opportunities that are there, and they fully appreciate that there will be a change needed in the product that they're designing, or the way they're marketing, or the rapid change that they'll have to bring in their shopping center and experiences. But the reality on the ground is strikingly very different. The reality is it's no longer profitable. It's no longer the hot product from the investor's perspective, which is making money. And at this stage of property cycle or the economic cycle, they don't have the capital to invest and create that, extra magic which the need demands, the consumer really looking forward to, and that will probably make the difference between the successful ones and the ones which are not. But however, the reality on the ground is shockingly very different.
If I may ask a follow-up question on this. So you believe that developers recognize the changing realities, but the effort or the investment required to fulfill that reality does not yield the required return?
The return expectations.
Return expectation. Will this ever be financially viable?
I think some of the developers, they have the cash flow, And I think it's largely because they have a very diverse portfolio of income and they're able to cross-subsidize and deploy some capital. But in generic, if you were to ask me, it will only be when the sales will pick up to volumes that they will like to see reflect in the balance sheet, and which I think may take another couple of years, which actually happens. As a result, some may see as being deprived and distressed assets in the market, but for some, they see as an opportunity to pick up these assets and rejuvenate and use technology and the changes patterns of the consumer and maybe invest. The companies who have access to capital would actually go into this as an opportunity, but as a business model today, it has no sustenance.
Like institutional investors like Xander.
I would say, so the first entry investors, you know, the veterans, whether it was Xander, whether it was, you know, Old Mutual, Liberty, and many others, I think you will always see somebody taking over. Somebody from the real estate fund side once told me, it's the second buyer who makes the money, not the first one. And I've seen that interestingly in the hospitality. So you look at the same landscape. The developers have went really emotional when they designed the hotels. They overspec'd it and they're not making money. And the new buyers who are buying the hotels, they're buying it below replacement value and they're making sense out of those projects. So I think something similar you will see, whether the Blackstones or the other who will see the opportunity. They've done it in office. They're now going to do it in retail. And as more institutional capital participates in this retail, I think the landscape will dramatically change in India, which so far is not doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pushpa? That was interesting.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to look at this whole scenario of changing experiences from a consumer point of view. What's happening is that the consumer mindset is changing and changing rapidly because today the consumer, 4 years back, e-commerce was not a reality. Today it is. But with e-commerce, really, it shouldn't be a fashion statement. But actually what's happening is, from a developer point of view, we have taken cognizance of the changing thought process of consumers, and we are creating spaces which are much more dynamic. I'll give you an example. There are shops that we are trying to do, say in a Mall of India, which is much more technologically forward, wherein the consumers can come and see a particular outfit and see how that outfit will look on themselves, look at different colors, different sizes, without having to go into a trial room. So we are really looking at technology and use of technology to ensure that the consumers get a different experience. So we would like to view this whole thing as much more consumer-centric. The moment it's consumer-centric and it is also dynamic from what the consumer wants, I believe top line is there, and we have experimented it also in another category, which is entertainment. DLF has never ever looked at investments or giving large spaces for entertainment. In Mall of India, which is a mall that we are opening, 25% of the space has been dedicated to entertainment. Why? Because they are, again, new experience zones for consumers. So you shop, you also experience a certain entertainment, which is what, in fact, that entire topography, including the other projects around Noida, Mr. Baldev's project, all of them have got a lot more entertainment quotient, and I think this will change the dynamic of the way malls business is being viewed in the next few months.
So for the benefit of the audience here, what is the typical proportion of the space that a mall developer dedicate to entertainment? You said currently at Mall of India is 25%. What is the typical number?
40% of the space has been dedicated to food and entertainment, which in a 2 million square feet project is a substantial, play. And this also gives us an opportunity to have the largest indoor entertainment theme parks. It also gives us an opportunity to have, around 30 food concepts, which are all casual dining, which will add to stickiness. And hence, malls will become much more of a lifestyle destination rather than a space to go, shop and move out. So we would like to create experiences and make sure that the malls is much more a family lifestyle destination, catering to various segments effectively in order to ensure that the experiences that they have is dynamic in nature and not static in nature.
True. Thank you.
So we've heard a lot about experiential retail, experiential spaces. But actually, I think it's much more simple than that. I think what consumers are looking for is authenticity. They're looking for great retail. They're looking for great food and beverage. But they're looking for all of that in an environment which is authentic. And our retail and our food and beverage locations, developed from our city centres and our high streets, the point of commerce, the point where people came together. So I think we need to create all of these great environments, but set within an environment which feels relevant to the customer that you're targeting. And I think that means us getting away from beige vanilla malls and into something that is relevant to consumers, relevant to the location, and with a vibrancy that actually means that they're going to want to spend time there. So I think the watchword, the key here is authenticity and design will add great experience and create spaces that both retailers and customers will want to be at.
I would first start with what Sanjay said. Are we making money? So yeah. So I'll just stick to Noida. I always call IRF is becoming more IRF of Noida. With a lot of Noida, developers coming and struggling for our leasing app. Just to give you an example, we bought 147 acres in 98 crores. DLF bought 12 acres in 200 odd crores. Today the valuation of DLF land is upwards of 450 crores. And after investing around 300, 400 crores, Pushpa, correct me if my numbers are wrong, the mall worth is 2,000 crores. So is this enough money to make? I'm sure it is. So, I mean, I don't understand residential or commercial. I always try people that we are making a lot of money, guys. I mean, trust me. I used to work for a guy called Bobby Gulati. He's an exporter. And I used to wear a Hugo Boss shirt. He's like, yeah, Manish, we deliver this in $8 in Europe and we buy it at 10,000 rupees. So those are the margins and the numbers and crazy numbers we are talking about.
We're going to pick up a fight now. Huh?
We'll spice it up, Sanjay, no problem. So if the question is, are we making money? Enough. I mean, the property which in Noida, the latest valuation is 3,000 crores. Do we have 300 crores? No. But it's a very short-term thing. You have to understand, the government has leased that property to me for 90 years. You know what we do? When I was in DLF, once the VC gave in one of the town halls, he said, average increase, the Hindu business law says that you should increase by 3%. You should increase by 3%. Out of the blues, you say, a house which was 30 lakhs has become 3 crores with the same damn infrastructure. Nothing has changed. And we say, no, it's not increasing for the next 5 years. You have increases for the next 20 years, in 2 years. So it has to stabilize. So I think it's a weight game. Let's not panic. Let's not say we're going to make money. And me and Pushpa, we were lucky to have Ansal Plaza. And in those days, this fight was, Sanjay, mall aa rahe hain, high street khatam ho jayega. So it's the same thing. So from the retailer's perspective, it's another channel for them discount. I personally feel e-commerce is affecting the outlet malls, not more so the regular shopping malls, because people buy on the internet for discounts. That's what my thing is.
Yeah.
If I may very quickly add, just to make it interesting. So I totally agree with you, and you have a point there. What we were talking about actually from the IRR's perspective. So when you, traditionally in India, the developers have always seen their investment in multiples. So if I bought 1 crore property, ab kitne ka ho gaya? So now it's become 3 crores or 4 crores. What we actually forget is actually the cost of capital, the time and annualized return over the next 5 or 7 year periods. So when you do that backward and you set your return expectations on the capital that you deployed, it's that return which is not so attractive. And then to make things even worse for foreign investors, they actually lost money when they entered, the dollar value was X, and when they exited, it was even worse, and very likely to change even more.
Yeah.
So I think instead that you should have just bought dollars and kept it, they would have made more money.
Yeah. I think the developers were in a rush to make malls some years back. Cities like Ludhiana, Amritsar, 14, 15, 20 malls in a city where they required only 2 malls. So it was a rush, mad rush. Now things are consolidating and the developers are thinking better and evolving the designing, the planning, which is an important factor. Nobody thought at that time that planning is a thing which the developer should be concentrating on, or the visuality, the how the shops should look, what should be the circulation of the customer, how they should move. So that was an important factor which was never taken into consideration. But since the malls failed, few did good, now the people are learning why the good mall is doing better. So this circulation planning and everything and the requirement of a city is what developers are thinking about, and now they are planning according to that. I don't think there's any reduction of footfall in the malls. Whenever you go on the weekends, they are full. There's no parking space. So the people are coming, and what they now want is experience. And that is our strength. The mall, they are giving an experience to the family, and the family can spend some time together there on the weekends. So that is our strength. So that is what we should be working more on. I always believe, and in our company we believe, we should always work on our strengths. And our strength is that the malls, they give some experience and some time to the family. And it is never going to end. E-commerce is coming, that is a different ball game. It will be staying there, it will expand, but it will not hurt malls if we are doing it in the right way.
So that's how you think the consumers' expectations have
The
changed?
expectation and the experience. And experience, giving that experience, the weekend experience, the family experience, going, touching the fabric and buying it, that experience is with us. So nobody can take that from us. So like the high street, Munish gave the right example. High street, people are thinking the high street will never work at that time. But right now, their valuation is much higher than the malls. When people play video games, but they still go to the amusement park. So everything has their own novelties, their own strengths. They should be working on their strengths, not just working on the weaknesses.
Sure.
Because when we work on the weakness, we become average. But when we work on our strengths, we become an expert.
Some great words of wisdom here.
Sanjay, we do make money. A lot of malls do make money, so there's no issue there.
He makes a lot of money with us. But.
Yeah. Probably he's not getting paid on time. But let me tell you, malls make money as long as malls do the job right. I mean, we are pretty much like the automobile industry. You can't be selling Ambassador in 2015. You can't be selling Ambassadors. You have to create the new look vehicles. You got to create the new look shopping malls. You got to design the future. We are not somebody who's going to hope that some god from there will come and create the future for us. We got to design the future. So the shopping centers, the retail spaces of future has to be designed by these very people who are there in this industry, probably in this room. And that's where, you know, people like Binoy are doing a sterling job. I remember the shopping malls before Binoy and after Binoy. I mean, it's been a huge change. The market cities, we have seen how Phoenix market cities have changed prior to them and after them. So I think shopping centers need great design. And we got to understand that consumers are changing. They are getting exposed to new things all the time. They are looking for exciting things. So either we give it to them or they go elsewhere. So there is no choice. How do we make money? That's our problem. I mean, who is asking you to put marble that is worth 5,000 rupees on the floor? Go for tiles, go for stone. In fact, I remember there was this architect from South Africa, a part of the Bendel team. They went crazy over quota. It cost us 40 rupees a square foot at that point of time. They said, we want quota in the mall. So what stops us from thinking innovative finishes that is going to cost you less, but is still going to add value to the end consumer? Spend that rupee elsewhere. Nobody talks about fit-out design. That's where the real experience is. I mean, Phoenix, Innorbit, all of those, even DLF today, they have invested in creating better retail fit-out designs. That's where the experience is going to get created. And for God's sake, 70% of the mall is the retailers. But the developers focus 80% of the effort in common areas, which is just 30% of the space. So I think that's where the second key, area of excellence is. So one, to answer you, we make money. Second, will we continue to make money? Only if we design the future, not if we, Nokia 5110 doesn't sell anymore. Nokia is dead, BlackBerry is nearly dead. So if you don't design the future, somebody else will.
So the crux is everyone here is making money, nothing to worry about. So indeed the consumer expectations have changed. They are looking for new experiences. They are increasingly mobile and tech savvy. So in this changed world, how are retailers adapting to the new consumers' expectations? I'd like to start by asking a question to Mr. Rafiq as to what do retailers expect from a new age shopping centers in terms of infrastructure requirements, in terms of technology, in terms of experiences. What do you think the new age shopping centers should provide to you as a retailer?
See, one of the most dangerous things I heard here is a lot of mall owners saying they make money. I would be much happier if they said all my retailers are making money. Because if the retailers are making money, the mall will definitely make money. So I think it's very important for a mall owner to think of the retailer in his mall as a partner.
Absolutely.
And as long as they are all successful in making money, the value to the mall automatically flows in. And I think one of the most important things we need to understand that it's a partnership. I mean, I remember when the first Forum Mall was opened by the Prestige Group, the amount of effort they made in finding the right retailers and tenants. I think they spent as much time in finding the tenants as they did in designing the mall. And I think it was important because they were looking at it purely from the consumer, which mix of tenants will give the best experience to the customers of that locality. So I think it's more and more important as consumers have many more choices and many more channels to visit, that mall owners and retailers look upon this entire relationship as one of partnership. And as long as it's a win-win situation for both sides, because if one of them is making money and the other is not, then both of them are in trouble. So I think that is one most important thing that we need to realize. I think most importantly, we need to utilize all the available tools to make the consumer experience better. I mean, if you look at the average demography of a consumer today, it's much younger, and everybody talks about they want great experiences, and that's a fact. The whole concept of what creates happiness is changing. They are very happy going on Airbnb and staying somewhere or using an Uber. They don't want to own things. They want to have better experiences, better holidays, whether it's amusement, whether it's buying, whether it's products, whether it's brands. So I think we need to, and today, you talk a lot about omni-channel and all. I think it's just effective use of all the available technologies to be able to serve the consumer better, in a more efficient manner, in a seamless manner, and give him a lot of convenience so that he enjoys the experience. I think throughout history, that has been the underlying principle. And today, technology makes everything from whether it's algorithms to digitalizations to sensors, give us a tremendous opportunity to be able to serve the consumers better. Technology cannot be used for the sake of technology. It's not an end in itself. Is this going to make my customers' experience better? And we are in 90 cities today, and what my consumer in Bangalore might consider good is not necessarily what my consumer in Dimapur or Kota may consider. I have to ensure that for the particular, whether it's a locality or a city or a tier 2 or tier 3 or tier 4 city, am I giving the consumer the best experience possible? And if I consider, like if a mall considers the retailer, similarly a retailer has to see what can I do to make my consumer experience better. And things evolve. You'll get the appropriate technology, because it has to be appropriate. You cannot use technology as an end in itself. So once you have that focus of the consumer, then you will find the right solutions to be able to evolve into spaces, into brands that are entertaining for the customer, that are experiential for the customer.
I would also request our shopping center.
I gave two examples, one of our land banks
and
also of Hugo Boss. And I said, we make money, which you are part of us. So I thought, let me clarify. And you know, tenancy in retail is something, nobody pays rent out of pocket, is what I understand in my 15, 20 years of being in this line. But you know, because you have to get up and work hard on this and you have to really work hard, I think that having that optimistic approach is, but that's the reason I gave Hugo Boss and Land Bank 2 examples.
But I don't agree with you about everybody making money. 25 years ago in Harvard, one of the principal things they taught us, that half the retailers in the world are bankrupt because of the cash flow. Most of them don't know it. So it's important to know that a lot of people do lose money, but sometimes the cash flow keeps you afloat and you don't realize you're losing money.
Absolutely. I agree to that, but you know, I just want to clarify that I wanted both the retail. When I say we make money, all of us make money.
Thanks for the clarification, Manish. I would also request our friends from the shopping centers.
A lot of money in his mall, by the way.
So I hope you are in the next one, so I'm there. I'm sure you're there.
Thanks, Rafiq, for sharing your perspective. I'll also ask our shopping center friends to share their perspectives on what they're hearing from retailers as to their requirements. How has those requirements changed over the last couple of years?
Yeah, like you had rightly pointed out that retailers today are definitely more demanding in terms of what they believe they need to offer the consumers, be it in terms of store facade, be it in terms of the right kind of shape of the store, because they understand also for the right kind of displays, the shape of the store makes a big difference. I noticed that retailers have become more mature and evolved in their thought process in terms of what consumers want and hence what gives them better throughput. Like you rightly said, it's all about sales. If they make good revenue, the developer makes good revenue. We at DLF strongly believe in that, and we sort of really, in fact, I believe we are more particular about the kind of top line that they accrue sometimes than the stores themselves, because that's the only way that the asset will grow. It's a symbiotic relationship, and but the interesting thing is that it will only come through with creativity. I believe what we are all not getting in sometimes is that we get lost in numbers, we get lost in the logistics, and we lose the finer creative angle. Frankly, if there is thought given on how can we make that experience better for the consumer, what are the different creative things that we can do, innovate, which will make his shopping experience better and which will make him come back again, his wallet is going to be spent a lot more in your mall. So I think the more we understand that aspect, the retailer gets happy and the developers then a happy person.
Manish?
I know we've been debating while we were in the room backside also. I don't think there is much to bother about. I always, there was Economic Times story, I think 4-5 months back, which said back in the US, e-commerce is around 15, 18 years old, and they hold 10% of the market share. Out of that 10%, 2 or 3% is owned by the offline companies who have online portals. I am a strong believer of Kishore Bayani. He owns, Mr. Bayani has maybe 30% of all our shopping malls. And when I discuss about him, he's saying, Manish, let them sell at the real value. Right now, all of us know how much money are they spending to, acquire customers. You guys don't realize we invest hundreds of crores and 4 to 5 years to build a mall. And after that is when we start realizing. So they are in the, probably e-commerce is right now in the phase of investing and constructing a shopping mall or a marketplace for themselves. And the gentleman previous to saying, it's just technically it's only commerce. E-commerce was there, Omni is already in. We know that Omni channels are they're going to exist. And there are some things probably which you can't, as what Amit said, that you can play a video game, but on a football in a video game, but you cannot sweat it out. So if you have to sweat it out, you have to be there. Also, in one of the Kishore Bayani books, he said, what we have built is modern day temples. अब लड़का लड़की यार शादी.com पे तो मिलके नहीं शादी कर लेंगे ना. Finally they need some kind of a shopping mall to come there and meet and date, and I don't know whether dating possible on net, but so you'll actually need these real spaces. I think it's a phenomenal growth story for as a mall developer. When at Unitech I used to say I will only do state capitals. But thanks to the Flipkart and Amazons, they have taken a Louis Philippe and a H&M and other brands to a village. I mean, my driver has a smartphone and he orders on the phone. So wherever in Bihar or where is he from, when he's taking that product, actually that product which was only in the capitals of or state capitals is gone down to a village, which technically means that I can do a shopping mall there. And also the land cost in those areas are not as expensive. And who says you want to do only 1 million square feet? If I'm going to all the 526 districts, majority of them might get covered by only maybe a 200,000 square feet shopping center. So as what Avneet said, I think you do the research, get your catchment right, do the product well, and omni-channels are there, e-commerce is there, and high streets are also there, and they're booming and doing very good business. I think overall the market size is increasing, consumption pattern in India is increasing, and now let's not forget what we have with people. Other countries don't have people, we have a lot of people. So till the people are there, I think we have a lot of money to make out of it.
I think one of the truisms of what we're all saying actually is that retail is an emotional transaction. You can have a little bit of that online, but the instant you click that button to say purchase, you've lost it. And actually when we're in our shopping centres, we're in our towns and city centres, that emotional transaction, that instant gratification, that is the thing that fuels the experience. So all we need to do is actually build our developments, build our cities in a way which support that instant gratification, support that emotional transaction. And we continue to create places that actually people want to go to. So I think it's really quite simple.
It was regarding the brand. The brands now, they are more evolved now, and they are now going more practical. And yes, to increase the experience, they may be increasing the sizes of their outlets. Because to give more experience, like if we go to Oxford Street on a Nike showroom, they have increased the area. And you really feel nice to be in that showroom and experience it and roam around. So if there's a single floor shop in a Nike, I may not enter it, but I see, it has some experience in it. I may or may not buy it, but to feel the experience I enter, and that comes with the size. So few outlets are actually increasing their size to give better experience to the consumer. And few are reducing their size according to the requirements. But everybody has to add the experience part into it so that the consumer who is coming to the shopping mall, he feels that his day is fulfilled. The time when he enters the mall, from the parking experience till he reaches to the shop and when he goes back, the experience should be flawless. And if he's waiting for an hour outside the mall to park his vehicle, so he'll say, why to come here? So we have to see that part also and enhance the experience of the consumer.
That's a very interesting point you made, Avneet, there, where you said that the average store sizes have increased, because the popular notion is that with omni-channel retailing, the average store sizes for retailers have reduced because they are now opening up their stores with digital displays and online ordering right in their stores. So I'd like to ask our panelists here what they think about the future of retail as to whether the store sizes would go up or reduce in the new world.
Sure. Just to add to that, the previous query, retailers, ever since I've started working in shopping centers since the last 10, 15 years, they all want prime ground floor atrium. That's how retailers' demand has been, and that still doesn't change. So how do we build malls where there is only one atrium and only ground floor? So we can't do that. So obviously, we are now looking at creating more and more atriums. So I think Pushpa's mall has some 5 or 6 atriums, right? So we are creating multiple atriums in our mall. We are creating multiple entrances. So this is one thing that all retailers want. They want bigger sizes, but I don't think they all get their business model right, because there was a time 4 or 5 years back when everybody suddenly said, instead of 800 square foot stores, we want 2,000 square foot stores. And they realized the trading densities didn't go up. Their business volume just went up by 50%, while their cost went up by 100%. And they all came back saying, I want pure revenue share for 10 years. So it didn't work out. So I think retailers are still working out that model, and of the last couple of years, they've been able to get it right. They're now saying, okay, we want 1,000, we want 1,200. This market, 800 is fine. This market, we want 1,500. So the sizes varying according to the location. So they're much more clearer. They're not coming that, this is my concept, I want this size. Even international retailers like Tommy Hilfiger or even Mango or Zara for that format, or even for Forever 21, they have gone for different sizes in different malls. So, but one thing is sure, most of these international, if you're looking at doing a shopping center and you want to ride the cycle, make sure your ground floor heights are at least 5 meters. I mean, most of these international retailers, they are saying, we want 5-meter storefront heights. Yeah. So, though the Indian regulations do not permit you to build more than 4.2 meters, because then you pay additional FSI. So I don't know how developers are handling it, but that's one thing quite a few retailers are saying. Second, everybody wants more F&B in your mall. They want more destination value. So one of the things we are doing is we are adding, like the DLF, we are adding about 30% of space, which is dedicated to food and entertainment. We are looking at adding dwell time enhancers, frequency enhancers. So we are making the customer come back to your mall more often and stay there longer, rather than just do standard vanilla malls.
Thank you. Sanjay, would you like to add anything on the sizes of retail stores?
I think yes, you have the example of Urban Outfitters, which started with a 2,000 square feet shop, and today has a 20,000 square feet shop selling garments, but besides that they're offering coffees, salon, to give the consumer a better experience. In India, unfortunately, we don't have that luxury, because not only do we have to see how technology can be used and by increasing the size of the store, but you also have mall owners who want to make money. So obviously you have the rents per square feet that you have to consider. So you have to have efficient models that give customer a better experience. So yes, we have to evolve ourselves within the existing spaces. Today, for example, in our store, at one time we used to sell footwear. Today, accessories, shoe care, foot care, polishes, belts, wallets, bags. I mean, 10% of our sales come out of accessories, which we try and give it as a package to the consumer to give him a better experience. So we need to create, I don't think we need to put kiosks in our shop to give a omni-channel experience, because if he wanted to use a screen, he'd use a screen at home and his computer. He wouldn't come to the store. He's coming to the store for a better experience. So can I use technology to personalize my offering to him, to get a better understanding of what his needs are, to be able to ensure how I can serve him in a more focused manner because of all the information that I have through my loyalty plans or whatever information I have, to create a better experience, a more personalized experience to him. So yes, retail spaces will need to evolve, retail brands will need to evolve to cater to the new consumer, but it may not necessarily be in terms of quantity alone. It can be done very effectively with quality, because at the end of the day, we all need to have a return on investment or return. So it's very important, and we've seen in a lot of presentations that unfortunately productivity in India is not at pace with the productivity at other parts of the world. So we need to keep that in mind and have appropriate sizes so that we can serve the customer better, but in a definitely more efficient manner.
So just to expand on this, I believe the digital footprint of most of the consumers is increasing. So earlier we were just collecting data from the Google, or what kind of preferences we have and what we searching on the net, and it'll get digitally captured as a digital footprint. But when you start by booking a cab in the morning and which location you're going to, and then you do some grocery purchase while on the way, and then you do some shopping, and then you do a few other things for business, and then you come back taking a cab back home, you've already created about 10 or 15 digital impressions across various verticals. So I think the algorithms and the data will play a very important role, and not necessarily the size of the stores, but the data and the algorithms will drive the consumer preferences, and it'll be more customized and personalized. So right when you pass through a different street, you will receive the promotional activities thrown on your smartphone, which will tell you where the discounts are available. And by the way, on the basis of data of shopping that you did previously, it will throw those options open to you. So I think technology will play a very important role, and despite the fact that we shouldn't, like Pushpa mentioned, get lost in that data world, and I agree with her, but it's going to play more because that will discipline our business to use our business more efficiently and correctly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Adding to that, you know, I think, yes, digital footprint is increasing. But interestingly, that's also having a play on stores and format sizes. Recently, I saw in Hong Kong, there's a store where most of the displays, products are actually just single spaces, single displays, and the rest of it, you can actually try it on digitally. That means you just try on one, and the others are there in the warehouse or trial rooms, and you can experience digitally how you would look wearing the particular, yeah, it's hybrid. So that net decreases the store size. Hong Kong also has got a space paucity as India has, urban-wise, and they have done a great job in experimenting. So I think creativity and data and digitization can go hand in hand. It's just that one needs to be always aware of the fact that we are in a lifestyle space, and hence more creative we get, more innovative we get, the better throughput we would get.
Just one addition. You know, we often discuss about the sizes and the experiences and all. I think in India, one has to be very sensitive about the price points.
Correct.
So if you're able to create an experience across the various price points, you will have far more productivity out of your, you'll be able to stress your asset more efficiently, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you made a very important point on how technology will play a critical role for shopping centers to stay relevant in the new world. At our upcoming shopping center, via Bengaluru, we are piloting a proximity marketing solution where we know the profiles of every consumer who walks in through our doors and buy different stores. So we are able to target them with curated real-time offers. So I think that brings us to the next stage of our discussion as to how shopping centers are evolving themselves to the new expectations of consumers and the new demands from retailers' perspective. How are we trying to be more relevant in this new world? So if I may start asking Pushpa on her views, what DLF Mall of India, for example, is doing.
How to remain relevant from in an e-commerce world, or
in this current environment with the consumer expectations changing?
I think the only way is to remain dynamic and understand that one is in a state of flux. The moment you understand that, then you know that you will have to evolve as the consumers are evolving, retailers are evolving, developers have to evolve constantly. So one of the key things that we have done, which retailers don't understand instantly but are now gaining more understanding of it, is that we've reduced the lease tenure. The reason why we've reduced the lease tenure in our developments are because we believe that consumers need a fresh array of products every once in a while, and the churn is important. In evolved markets in Asia, it's just 3 years, and people are able to make money within 3 years. In India, we have now looking at 6-year lease tenure, so that's one of the large changes that I see that's happening. Yeah. The second change that I also see happening is retailers are increasingly becoming much more marketing savvy. And that is a very important thing, because even developers are understanding that the more marketing savvy one is, you know, it is better in terms of providing the right kind of environment for the consumers and providing better sales. So this is another learning from mature economies. They are much more marketing savvy, and retailers are doing the same.
So how do you stay dynamic in a static real estate asset? I mean, of course, you can bring freshness by reducing the tenure of retailers, but the infrastructure that you build, which has taken 5-7 years to build, how do you keep evolving that infrastructure to stay relevant 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line? And this is also relevant for existing shopping centers who have been in operation now. So how do they evolve to stay relevant?
See, I think it's important to recognize that, say, a particular category is doing well, and one needs to be creating a fact that if that category's growth cycle is reducing, one should change that category. So yes, there will be a dynamism through that. But yes, mall is a fixed space. The more you digitize a mall, that means more of an omni-channel presence you create and digitize the space, the more dynamic you can make the same static space. We've seen that stores these days are much, much more digitized than what it used to be earlier. That brings about two variations. That is, fresh season sales are easily displayed in a much better dynamic fashion. But also the fact that, you know, if a person comes in, sees that a particular style or size is not there, the person is able to shop online instantly and is able to get it delivered. So I think no longer should one be restricted to the fact that we are in a static business, which is malls, which is brick and mortar. Yeah. The more omni-channel we get in our mindset, the better it is.
Thank you. So David, if you may throw some lights on how the shopping center designs have evolved over the years. You must be getting new briefs from shopping center developers. So have you noticed any change in thinking or the brief to make malls more experiential?
I think we often talk about the customer journey when we're talking about the retail environment. And the reason we talk about the customer journey is for reasons that have been mentioned before, which is it's all about the experience from beginning to end. So when you're planning that customer journey, then you're curating the space. And when you're curating the space, you're understanding the difference between the fixed components, which is generally in that sense the retailers, and I'll come on to those in a minute, but then you've also got the more transient elements. And I think the transient elements in retail mall environments then are about your MSUs, they're about your mall retailing, your food retailing actually on the mall, and those are the things that you can change on a more regular basis. And then you're starting to think about the sort of sculptural elements that you might place in the mall, or the elements of positioning that might help with your brand reinforcement. And all of those things can change on a regular basis. But they need the mall owner, the mall developer, to understand that there's a cost in doing that. When it comes to the retailer, one of the things, we work with a European developer called Unibail-Rodamco, and Unibail do mid-market, mass-market shopping environments. But what they really understand is that instead of spending lots and lots of time doing shopfront design guides that are very intricate and very bespoke, they produce those documents, but they then invest their time with their architects, sitting with the designers of the retail space, to push those retailers to really create something rather special. So rather than relying on the existing format that they've rolled out in 20 stores that you might see nationwide, to actually then do something quite specific and unique and to push their brand. So I think investing in design, whether it's for the retailer or in the mall space, that can be curated and can be transient and therefore change, so you've got a dynamic environment, is for us, I think, a good thing and worth investing in.
Manish?
I feel, I don't know, I mean, I'm not clear about this answer. I mean, this is a process which will all grow. All of us are saying, you know, because to beat or kind of compete with e-commerce, we need to do entertainment and food more. But then there is a question, how much is too much? Just to give you an example of Connaught Place, which is probably the best example of a shopping mall, I still feel. I think it's a great location. There used to be 4 or 5 restaurants. Today, the number has gone up to around maybe 46 in Connaught Place. And trust me, they're struggling. I don't know how many entertainment operators, I mean, we operate a couple of amusement parks, so I know. The money is only in the depreciation. So how much is too much is also a big question, you know, when you're going to supply good, bad, ugly, I'm not saying. I mean, I personally feel, everybody feels that. I think what my friend said is a good solution. I think what we should do is we should keep the cost of construction as low as possible. And like all shops change their interiors every 6 years, I think the malls, and please understand, technically the common area is not 30%, it's actually only 10-11%. The corridors which you actually need to renovate every 5 or 6 years is only 10%. And there's enough money if you budget it well, that you can actually only pull it out of the CAM or the sinking fund to kind of, you know. So I think upgradation and modifications will actually behave like a retailer. Like a retailer, you know, and he's not changing everything. Every 3 years only probably changing a couple of fitments or some flooring or some couple of lights. So actually if you plan it well, the change, I personally feel if a retailer is started making money from me, I don't think I should tell him to leave. I think I should tell him to stay there and push him to do some changes so he gives that fresh look. I mean, we have a big bazaar. It's now running in the 8th year in GIP. They have renovated the whole store. They have put a non-veg section. Also because, you know, they realize that there is a hyper city coming, which in that sense is a little more premium, this thing. So what they actually have done is, probably they've added 100 tube lights, and it's not a major cost. So we'll have to think like a retailer, keep the cost low, because a time is going to come where the CAM, and you know that atrium thing, I mean in Delhi, you know, the air conditioning can actually kill us. I mean, there are situations where my rents are lower and the CAM is higher. I mean, we have a mall in Rohini where actually it's the fact. So you have to ensure that the CAM levels are extremely in control, because you cannot make somebody shop in a non-AC atmosphere anymore. It's quite clear. So keep the cost low, keep on changing. I think behave like a retailer, because that's what you are. You are as a shopping center, you're only an address. I am not the operator. My complication is that I am a B2B stroke B2C model. I'm assumed that it's my job to get the footfall. No, my model is B2B. My job is to get the retailer, and the retailer's job is to get the customer. But in that whole process of, you know, I will not call it a blame game, but in some kind of a thing, your mall is not doing well. What can I do about it? I don't have stores to run. So I can only upgrade my infrastructure very slowly, keep the cost low, what he said very nicely, and it's not much cost. I still feel construction is still in control as a cost.
I think while running a mall or while developing a mall, we should keep in mind that we are building a hotel. In hotel, you need to give freshness. Every time the customer comes, he's staying there for one night, he needs freshness. And the service, the pleasing receptionist, the pleasing manager there. So, and you cannot find fault into that. So, likewise, in a mall, the customer is coming, he should feel welcoming. That is the most important thing. And regarding stagnation is not there, because the outlets are churning out. The new outlets are coming. Sometimes you will have to ask the outlets which are not doing good, you have to ask them to change.
Sure.
Otherwise, you have to change them, because you need to have the freshness, and with the new brands, new outlets, the freshness comes. So that is the most important thing. Make it welcoming, make it fresh. Whenever the customer comes, he gets an experience. That is the core thing. And again, the ease of doing business. That again is very important. What is technology? What is, like we were planning some smart city. What is smart city? So it was that should make your life simple. That is the technology. Likewise, if we make the things easy, the customer experience is enhanced. So that is what we should be working on.
Malls for us are essentially, they work in micro markets. You know, you can't build a mall for India, you can't build a mall for Europe, you have to build a mall for your catchment. So, and catchment means 15-20 minutes drive time, that's your customer. Or maybe 30 minutes drive time if it's a super regional center like the Mall of India, or the R City, or the Phoenix Market City, and stuff like that. In each micro market, there is a particular capacity that micro market can absorb, whether it's one mall or two malls maximum. So if you're not dominating your neighborhood, if you're not dominating your catchment, better don't build the mall. So if you got to dominate, you got to do better than what the other guy is doing. You got to understand your customer and deliver a mall accordingly. So for example, if I'm doing a mall in Pune, I can't be building a 2 million square foot mall with no relevance to the local customer. I can't be building 5 or 6 malls in the same catchment and hope that because I'm putting marble on the floor and diamonds in the ceiling, my mall will work. It will just not work, and it's proven already. It's usually seen that the India urban benchmark for footfalls per square foot retail carpet areas too. And it's actually coming down. It's coming down to as dangerously low as 1.5. Pune operates at 1. Mumbai and Delhi are still around 1.5. And when we started shopping centers 10 years back, it was 2.5 footfalls a square foot. So one, there are more people coming to the shopping centers, but there are less people per square foot coming to the shopping centers. And that's a dangerous trend. How do you reverse it? One, please ensure that if there is already another shopping center in your catchment, please plan your size correctly. I mean, don't just go and oversize the center if you can't deliver the profits. 21 minutes there. Okay. So
I just want to just put another perspective. The fact is, you know, for some of the successful malls that we see around here, there are a lot of malls that are either shutting down, closing down, or have high levels of low occupancy. Also, if you see, the number of new malls coming up is almost drying up. So it could be, number one, whether the return on investment is appropriate or not, or is it that the malls have not evolved themselves to be relevant to the consumer, or it's online. Something or the other is definitely impacting, because if you saw even IRF a few years ago, with the buzz that was happening with new malls coming up, is far less. So obviously some change is happening. What will be the change and how we will need to evolve ourselves is not necessarily what the West has done or what China has done. It might lead to a completely new model. But online is a reality. And it will happen in a manner maybe not even the 10%. India as a country has always leapfrogged certain kind of advances. We went straight from, we'll go almost from kiranas to e-commerce. Because like his driver is doing e-commerce, I don't think he ever experienced modern retail ever. So the whole modern retail was, we went from no fixed lines to mobile phones, or almost from no phone calls to smartphones. So Indian consumers are leapfrogging. So I think online is a reality. It's going to become much more prevalent in India than anywhere. Today, if I go to cities, tier 3, tier 4 cities, the infrastructure is so bad that to put up a retail store is a hassle. Where there's a road, where there's a pavement, everything is in a mess. But e-commerce can reach the smallest town, the smallest pin code without any difficulty. So India as a country, so I think we need to recognize, we'll need to experiment. We may need to experiment in a new form, I don't know what. Some of them may fail, some of them may be successful. But I think there's a tremendous opportunity here that we need to look at and experiment with new forms, new things, maybe which are not tried anywhere in the world. But India is ready for that. The Indian younger generation is ready for that. And I think we should all be bold enough to take some risks and try something new.
Sure.
I'll just take 30 seconds.
Sure,
so
Sanjay.
I believe looking at the journey of the shopping centers in India, I believe we saw real estate developers creating shopping centers. Somehow we did not build retail experts. We got it real estate developers. And what is really needed, in my opinion, is developers to be multi-brand retailers. What they're doing as a business is phenomenally and totally different than real estate development. And I think some have got it and they ventured out, and that's the story, the success story we are talking about in India. And if the rest of the 1,500, which did not see the light because that many numbers came on the surface, it's largely because they didn't invest in understanding and building a retail business. So I think it's not just shopping center, it is building a retail enterprise, which got lagged.
Thank you.
Sure.
Do we have time for a couple of audience questions? Yes.
Just to add to what Sanjay said, merchandising a shopping center is a very important aspect. Retailers merchandise the stores. Shopping centers also need to merchandise the malls. Understand the price points. Like we actually did a research, understood at what price points our food court, our restaurants and our retail will work, and we merchandise the center. So we said we are not going to have a high-end brand there, so we will probably not have a high-end brand store. But at the same time, we are going to have mid-price brands. We actually went into Zomato and found out what are the various brands at which price points that are working in our catchment, and we said, okay, can we pick up 6 out of the 650 outlets and make them come to a mall? So merchandising a shopping center is going to be a key aspect in how you run a successful shopping center, rather than just saying, okay, here is a space, get JLL, get them to fill the mall.
Actually, I mean, all of us need to work together with retailers, with feedback from consumers to make malls a successful venture. Sorry, gentlemen, you had a question.
Hi. My question was that, you know, a period of time, the FSRs have gone up. So you have a lot of space. Now to fill up that space, you have these big format stores, you have these huge malls coming up. Because of that reason, you have a lot of retailers coming in. But then obviously your footfalls are going down, as the gentleman said, that per square foot the retail has gone down. What I want to know is, what is the future of these retail outlets? I'm not talking about specifically malls. What is the future of the mixed land usage which is happening? In terms of, like, you know, a lot of places where they have these hypermarts or something like that, large retail format stores, and on top, to fill up that FSR, they're building residential spaces as well. So is there a future, something like that happening in India as well? Or there isn't?
I think mixed use is here to stay. I think that's the best way to get maximum valuation out of the expensive land banks which are existing. So yes, of course, I mean, the best way to get maximum valuation is to do a mixed use, in which actually what you can do is sell the residential on the top, and which actually is also potential catchment, not so much so, but still it is, and or office buildings, and then maximize your valuation. I think it is here to stay.
I personally feel that mixed-use developments is one of the major contributors of shopping centers. You have to cross-subsidize, you know, the cost on the retail environment, and leverage on residential for cash flow and office space for sustainable income. And therefore, it's a mix of all of this which actually helps the retail development going, actually, because like we discussed earlier, some of the investment that you make in the shopping center and the hotel has a very long gestation period, and you cannot sustain as an entity. You have to cross-subsidize through those residential and commercial depending on the market condition.
Also, because what's happening is, sorry, one second.
We'll take
that, you know, tier A and B and big towns, probably big malls make a difference, but when you come down to C category towns, you know, their big format malls don't really work. They don't work. So, and because the rentals are so high, then they become high, then, you know, everything, there's a chaos which happens in these markets. Retailers don't come in because they don't get those kind of footfalls, they're not getting those kind of sales.
That's the answer that you're giving yourself. It's a mixed use helps basically.
No, I'm asking, is there also is there going to be a little change in terms of part rental, part revenue sharing, something like that also is going to happen in the future?
It's already existing. I think
that's the biggest sector.
It already is existing, and I mean, I think here to stay. I think a lot of developers like us are going the franchise route. And, you know, if you know Select City Walk, does their retail turnover is around 75-80 crores a year. So I mean, yes, of course. I mean, why revenue share? I mean, when you're doing a 200 crore project, put another 20 crores to do 20 stores, and trust me, with you know 30 to 56% margins on retail sales, there's a lot of money to be made. So yeah, I mean, beyond, I think people have gone beyond revenue shares to say that developers are saying we'll pick up franchises of maybe 20 important brands and run it.
We can discuss that in detail offline. So we'll take one last question.
Hi, I am Nikunj from What's Extra. I had a question that the panel briefly dwelled upon technology and personalization. I think online guys have a huge advantage of having a lot of data. I mean, does the panel feel that it's now, I mean, the time is ripe? I think even physical retailers are catching up with the data and analytics and all that, you know. Is it time that, you know, the malls and retailers actually forge deeper partnerships in trying to understand, collect, analyze the data of people who are walking in and what are they actually doing? I mean, just to give you a case in point, I mean, Rafiq sir would be happier. I mean, if let's say a mall where consumers are coming in, they are buying food, entertainment, apparels, but they are not, let's say, you know, buying footwear. So, you know, those consumers can be personally targeted with promotions for, let's say, a Metro shoes. I mean, doesn't it, it's a win-win, right, for both? So don't you think, I mean, it's time that, you know, big data is leveraged in a very big way with joint partnerships between the retailer and the mall, even if it takes enablers, I mean, probably, to do so.
I think it's already happening because the loyalty programs run by the malls, that is the basic thing behind it, that we should have the data and we should be sharing it with our retailers and pushing the sales for, because the retailers has to do business and they have to earn, then only we can earn. So loyalty programs are run by the malls only to increase the sales of the retailers. That's being worked upon. Yes, it's a recent phenomena, but it's happening.
To tell you how things have evolved, retailers have historically been reluctant to share data with malls. They hated to share footfalls earlier, then they hated to share sales data because our rents would go up. But now, of late, ever since they started saying revenue shares, we have been able to put in those ADSR, you know, automated daily sales report softwares, and we're getting better data now. So one, that is already happening in most malls. The next level of data, which the e-commerce guys get, with the shopping centers don't, is when the customer walks into your door, he has done all the shopping, he's done the dining, she's done the dining, and she goes out. It's a complete data black hole. You don't know what she's done. I mean, you don't know exactly what they have done, who is this person, whether they have come for the first time, second time, third or fourth time. Now, there are a lot of technologies that are available now, which have been showcased in this platform, in the earlier RAI platform, which many shopping centers are looking at actively. For one, we at Lodha are looking at it very, very actively. We're looking at, I mean, IBM is our smart city integrator for our Lodha project, so they are helping us look at how do we get the footfall recognition through our CCTV cameras. So we have invested heavily in those technologies. So we're looking at parking systems which will give us a dwell time and frequency analysis through the number plate recognitions. So shopping center developers are looking at it. It's not that they're not, but our pace has been slower than the e-commerce guys. So
I wouldn't be surprised if shopping centers actually do the delivery to your home using the online channel and the data that they have. So imagine the last mile. They buy their hubs and they have the logistics to manage it. If you are 1 million square feet and you have almost all the retail formats, why not just do the online as well and support the offline as well?
High Street Phoenix has already started it by appointing an agency to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you so much for a very active discussion, and it's been very insightful. Please give our panel a big hand.